Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, monomili wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedlie, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts. Our guest today is Kim Ann. She is returning to the show to celebrate Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation? Before we invite Kim Ann back into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by A Little Love, a delightful little book written by Gabe and Andrea Olson. Gabe and Andrea Olson are the authors of the Big God book series that are filled with true stories of real-life miracles happening all around us. A Little Love takes your children on a fun adventure exploring the unexpected miracles of God. The book follows a boy named G as he realizes that God does hear his prayers and that God is walking alongside him and his family every step of the way, even when it doesn't feel like it. A Little Love reminds kids that God knows what we need before we even ask, and that miracles aren't just found in the Bible, they're still happening today to everyday, ordinary people just like us. You can pick up A Little Love today at thebiggodbooks.com. And when you do, you'll get exclusive bonus material that was thoughtfully designed for you and your family. A Little Love by Gabe and Andrea Olson. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by the Lookbook Scavenger Hunt series by Barbara Tibbetts. The Lookbook Scavenger Hunt series is on a mission to make life and learning fun for the entire family. Scavenger hunts are a wonderful way to increase retention and enhance problem-solving skills. Looking for ways to connect with your children? Slow down and look at the ordinary things around you in a new way. The Lookbook Scavenger Hunt is an open-ended activity that sparks conversations with your kids. Your kids can take the lead in learning as they hunt for objects hidden in plain sight. Share this experience together and build connections that last a lifetime. The latest book in the Hometown series brings attention to the importance of caring for our natural world and can be completed anywhere. There are facts on each page about the items pictured to promote curiosity. This book can be a fun family outing or the center of a curriculum. Get your copies today. The Lookbook Scavenger Hunt series by Barbara Tibbetts. Join us right now from the beautiful state of California. Our guest is returning to the Reading with Your Kids podcast to celebrate her 25th published book. It's the seventh book in her On Vacation series. It's called Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation? Please welcome back to the show, Kim Ann. Hey, Kim Ann, how are you?
Hi, Jed. Thanks for having me on again. I love your podcast.
We love having you on. We love your picture books. They're wonderful. They're beautiful. They're so much fun. Tell us all about Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation?
So, Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation is number 7 in the Go on Vacation book series, which includes elves, Santa, unicorns, dinosaurs, mermaids, and ninjas. And how that book series came about is after Christmas, I was seeing on Facebook how everybody was sending their elves back to the North Pole, their little elves on a shelf. And I thought, well, if the poor elves work during vacation when everyone else is not, like when do they go on vacation? And so that's how that series started. And my mermaid book does very well, Where Do Mermaids Go on Vacation? And I know it needed a pirate book. Especially with, so many people love the Pirates of the Caribbean. A lot of little kids know about different pirate shows that are on. So I just wanted to come out with my own pirate book. And what's going to make it a little bit different this time is that I actually have an inclusive pirate who is a wheelchair user in this book.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yes. So I have a son that is uses a wheelchair, and so we wanted to represent him in this book. So it's kind of fun.
Really wonderful. Well, those are obviously much more caring and empathetic pirates than I've read about in history.
Yes, they're very children-friendly pirates.
Yeah. Why? And my son loved pirates so much to the point where he absolutely made me crazy one day. And it was like, pirate, it's a lot. I finally said, they were horrible people. Stop. And I'm wondering, where do you think our fascination and kids' fascination with pirates come from?
I mean, I would have to say it's probably Disney World and Disneyland, right? Because they kind of made that a little bit glamorous, right? Who doesn't like to go on that ride? And then there's Johnny Depp, who's also very cool.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, my son he was crazy for pirates. And he had an invisible friend. It was Polly the lobster that sat on his shoulder. And
you may have to do a little bit with the New England roots there.
That's there you go. I think the on vacation theme is such a really fun theme and can really inspire lots of great conversations. And lots of great imagination.
Yes. So that whole series, my tagline is fun, imaginative, colorful book for kids. But the whole premise of the Go on Vacation series, it's a series of like questions, kind of like, would they go here? And in Pirate Book, it's like, do they ride the rapids? Where do they hide their treasure? Like, it's questions to get kids thinking, using their creative thinking skills, thinking outside the box. And I have fun with this series because I never want to hear a parent say my child doesn't like to read. And like many authors or parents and teachers might think, it's like they just haven't found the right book yet. So I feel if I write books with these fun characters and a lot of colors, that maybe children will be kind of drawn to them and maybe they'll enjoy reading more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key to helping our kids fall in love with reading is something that your books create naturally, that conversation. Where do pirates go on vacation? Do they go here? And where do they put their treasure? And it's those moments when we're giving our kids our complete attention, when the most important person in our kids' world says to them, what do you think? I want to know what you're thinking. That is such an empowering and validating thing for a kid to experience, I think.
Yes, I agree. That's awesome. Yes. And it's fun because you're looking at, and especially with picture books, right? You're looking at the picture, you're like, oh, look there's a little parrot here. There, a little crab here. Some of my books have like I have a 10 Little Sandpiper book. And on every page is a crab hiding somewhere so they can, the kids did you find the crab? Like, where is it? So it's just engaging with the child one-on-one and kind of a special time. I agree.
Yeah. You weren't prepared for this question, but that's okay because
I think fast on my feet.
Yeah. No, but, one of the things that I asked my beautiful wife and her best friend, they were two veteran educators in the Boston school systems. My wife was a special needs teacher. Her best friend was a principal. And I said to them when we first launched the podcast, hey, how can people who are listening to the podcast, the Reading with Your Kids podcast, they love books. That's why they found us. And yeah, they're going to be reading with their kids. And I think that's great. I want to introduce those parents to these great authors. But I also want to get the parents who aren't naturally loving books and they're really busy and, maybe they're in inner city schools or the kids go to inner city schools, which is where my wife and her best friend worked. And so how can we get them hooked in the show? And they said, a lot of our parents, they can't read or they can't read English proficiently or they're working 8 jobs and they're exhausted when they come home.
Yes.
You are an insightful mom, and I know you spend a lot of time connecting with parents to do so many live events. How do you think a parent can use your books, and especially Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation? That parent who can't read or who doesn't feel confident, how can that parent use your book to sit down and still experience that story with their kids so they can, again, fall in love with reading?
So, I mean, I think one important thing is when you're talking picture books, right? I mean, as an author, we let the pictures tell as much of the story as the words. So you can use this opportunity for the child and the parent to talk about what's going on the page. Oh, the pirate, look at, he's hiding his treasure here. You know, where do you think he hides it? The other thing that I like to offer on my website, and they're free, but I have video books. So you could actually play the video book and look at the book in itself, and that could potentially help the child learn to read. If they're saying, where do pirates go on vacation? And there's a child seeing the words, where do pirates go on vacation? Turn the page. So that might be a useful resource for them too.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very important and very, a great resource. You're a mom. You mentioned to us earlier that Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation include a character who is using a wheelchair, and you have a child who uses a wheelchair. I think one of the things that we don't understand is that parents with kids who have kids with special needs, that is an incredible job. And it takes an incredible amount of energy and time. Where do you find the time? First off, where do you find the time? You're caring for your family, you're caring for your kid, and you're still having time to get out there and write 25 books and get out there and connect with families and coach other authors. Where do you find the energy and the time?
So, I've been a writer forever, Jed. I haven't been publishing books until 2019. My son is 19 years old. He was a 25-week preemie. This is National Disability Month when we're recording this, actually. So he required a lot of he still requires 24-hour care, but it was a lot more intensive when he was young. So I would write, when he was asleep and my daughter was at school. Now that he's older, he does go to a program until 1:00 in the afternoon. So like I'm speaking to you now, my time, he's gone to his school for a few hours, and that's when I get to do some work. And then I have a great husband, very supportive, and he actually does a great job caring for my son when he gets home from work. So it's kind of a team effort over here in our house in Dr. Kim Ann land. And then I do a lot of work at night. But, I need this. A lot of people say to me after, Aiden has been through so much and I know so much about special needs and advocating and medical things, why didn't I go become a nurse? And it was like, I need something for Kim outside of all of the things that I do for my son now. Like, where would my break be if I then did this for him all day, then worked all night? Like this, I enjoy this so much. I enjoy the creativity. I've always been a creative person, and this allows me to do something that I love and that helps other families and other kids. And then my son absolutely adores picture books. I read to him when he was in the NICU. He spent the first 6 months there, and I couldn't hold him because he was very, very fragile, but I read to him every day in the NICU. And so at 19 years old, he still loves picture books. I have to say he loves the new pirate book. I only have the one sample copy. He's loving the pirate book because he loves the colors and he loves the rhyme. And I happen to do a lot of voice inflection, which is really important when parents read to their kids to help make it even more fun. Voice inflection through the pages and the way that it rhymes. And I just enjoy that. And I enjoy like providing this for other parents and teachers and for writing something that kids can enjoy.
You mentioned something about how much your son now loves picture books at 19.
Yes.
And way back in 1988, 1987, I was working at a school for kids with severe developmental disabilities. And these are kids who were between 10 and 19 who weren't really able to do much on their own. But we wanted to get them out into the community. It was right before the Americans with Disability Act was passed. And one of the things that I knew that my kids loved to do was to have the teachers read to them. Mm-hmm. And so on my job, they came to me and they said, look, you got to find a way to get these kids into the community and develop friendships with typical kids. And I thought, okay, well, basketball is out. So what are we going to do? And I went to a neighboring school, public school, and I approached the principal. I said, hey, my kids love to be read to. I bet you have some kids who need some extra time reading and so they can gain some confidence. How about some of your kids read to my kids? And absolutely dozens and dozens of beautiful friendships sprang from that program. And in fact, that school for kids with severe developmental disabilities closed a couple of years later because all the school systems that were sending kids from 50, 60, 70 miles away every day, they sat down and said, well, if they can go into a typical classroom and have kids read to them there and learn some stuff in those classrooms, why do we have to pay all this money to send them? We can do that here.
Right.
It was wonderful.
But I mean, it's awesome when we have those classrooms on campuses with typical children. And you were talking about the reading. Yes, they buddy up. It's great for both sides. Like my son loves to turn pages. So when they're reading, he waits for the pause and he wants to turn the pages. And that interaction with the typical kids, it helps them long term as well. Mm-hmm. Even when you're out in the community, whether it's shopping, the mall, the church, wherever, it's not something new for them to see these special kids with special needs. And, they learn how to approach them, how to greet them, and I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. Yes. The kids from the public school that work with us, they loved it. And there was, someone, when we started the idea, some of the nurses and doctors, they always get in the way. They were like, you'll never get these kids to volunteer. You're going to have to force how are you going to bribe these kids in the public school to read to our kids? And that was not an issue at all. I mean, there was a line of kids who wanted to participate. It was,
it's so sweet. My son graduated, was 8th grade and then high school. He's older now, but it's so great because all those students that have volunteered, and when it's these students' chance to go up on stage to be recognized, all the kids and the other students, everybody's so supportive and happy for them and cheering them on. And I think it's good for all sides. It's all good. It's kindness, right? Kindness is the best.
Hey, that brings up something, and I kind of love where this conversation is going because I think it's really important. A couple of the blocks that I experienced back in the 80s, back before you were probably born.
I wish. Thank you.
So there were two groups that kind of tried to block this idea, and it wasn't out of malice; it was out of concern. One was the doctors and nurses who thought, "No, these kids have to be in a hospital setting. What happens if?" It's like, well, we'll deal with it. We'll find a way to deal with it. But the other folks who were blocking it on occasion were parents. They were like, "What if my kid gets out there and he's made fun of? What if somebody mocks my daughter? I don't want my kids to experience this." I understood. I wasn't a parent at the time. I wasn't taking a risk with somebody that I love the kids, but it wasn't the same. As somebody who had to take that risk and allow your child to go into typical settings where there might be a jerk who might make fun of him. How did you get over that? What was the thing that said, no, it's worth the risk?
Well, first of all, it's children who haven't been exposed to different types of situations like that. In fact, my daughter had a friend come over. She was like 8 years old, and it was during the summer. She was playing in the pool, and one of the neighborhood kids came by. So my son was in his little walker, and, you know, we play Elmo, and he walks back and forth. And so he came inside, the boy came inside, and he didn't know what to say or do. He looked at my son and he started to cry. And I said, you know, it's okay. You know, you can say hi. He had never been exposed to that. It was interesting because his dad is a teacher. And I found that very interesting that he hadn't experienced anything like that, like how to greet my son. And, you know, that Aiden wasn't going to hurt him. You know, so I think it as a parent, I think when Aiden was 3 years old and he first started in special education, it was rough to say the least, because we didn't know what to expect. But what I did is I volunteered in the classroom, you know, so I could see what was going on, you know, and see how the other kids were very welcoming and, you know, very sweet. And it ended up being very positive for me. But sometimes, you know, you have to realize that these children, our kids are going to grow up and they're going to be out in the community. And so it's better to have them exposed and to have other children exposed to them, I think, younger, so that it's not anything unusual. And at 8 years old, you know, it's the first time that they had seen a child in a wheelchair or in a walker, right? So I think it's really important. And I think that, you know, it's all supervised, and campuses that have special education students always have a nurse that is trained in these kinds of things, and they have aides. My son has a one-on-one aide. So I know someone's always going to be overseeing any kind of transactions or that's going on. And for me, it's just been positive. My son, he loves when people walk in. He's nonverbal, but he turns his head to see who's coming. You know, he knows how to wave. And it's important. I mean, that's life, right? We all want to interact with other people. We want to feel positive energy, you know, and I think it's important for everyone.
Yeah. It makes the world a better place.
Yes.
A much better place. And another thing that makes the world a better place are great picture books like Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation?
It's a fun book, guys. So we're recording, but today is my book launch. So check it out. You can check it out on my website, which is authorkimann.com, or you can check it out on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble. It's pretty much all major retailers as of today.
Awesome. And so as of today means that when you're listening to this, they're available out there. Kim Ann, any other characters that you're going to send on vacation? Any chance you're going to ask where a clown or a magician might go on vacation?
I have to jot those ideas down. It's funny, when I do events and I do like a craft table, I have children sitting at my craft table. I'll always ask them, So I do have a small list. I don't want to give it away though, but stay tuned.
Okay. I don't think podcasters would be very interesting for kids, but clowns definitely. There's a lot you could do with Where Do Clowns Go on Vacation?
Well, except that some people are afraid of clowns.
Yeah, I know, and it's annoying.
I met some moms that are afraid of clowns, so I don't think they would like that book.
This is true, but one of the things that saved me when I performed with Whiteface is that I just had the whiteface, and so kids were able to see my arms. They were able to see. I was in the business. I was known as a chicken neck clown because they could see I had skin on my neck. That saved a lot of people. And in fact,
maybe I could say, where do the red-nosed people go on vacation?
There you go. You know, it's interesting for that, the project that I was talking about, working with the kids with severe developmental disabilities, we created a video around that. At first, the doctors wanted to make it a very sterile video. And I said, no, why don't we make it fun for kids? And so my clown character was in it. And
nice.
one of the things we did is I put my makeup on in front of the kids. to see that transformation. And there were a lot of transformations in that video. Probably the most magical transformations were the kids and how they all transformed. My kids and how they opened up to their peers in the public school kids, and how a lot of the grown-ups sat back and said, this was a good idea. Yeah. And it's a good idea to get yourself a copy of Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation, and check out the entire On Vacation series by our guest, Kim Ann. Kim, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jed. It's always a pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Elaine Kachala. She'll be here to celebrate Superpower, the wearable tech revolution. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Reading With Your Kids on Pinterest. We have a Reading With Your Kids page or channel on YouTube. And if you're on Twitter, please check us out at Jedlie Magic. And of course, we would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the contact button at the top of the page to send us a message. Let us know what you love about the podcast. Let us know what you don't love a whole lot. And let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I'm going to start by thanking our guest, Kim Ann. Please be sure to check out Where Do Pirates Go on Vacation. Also wanted to thank our sponsors, the Lookbook Scavenger Hunt series by Barbara Tibbetts, a great interactive family activity. And, of course, we want to thank Gabe and Andrea Olson. Check out A Little Love. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Mirabella Q, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.